By now, I'm sure you've heard of the latest game taking the world by storm. Helldivers 2 is a true milestone for Arrowhead Game Studios, and I'm not sure players truly understand how grand this accomplishment is. When looking at Arrowhead's history, you'll notice something of a pattern in the games they have developed. Most of their games that they've developed range from top-down style games with a rather strong emphasis on friendly fire. Well, the most recent game sees this team step out of their realm of comfort and confront new challenges, expanding upon one of their team's previous iterations within their franchise, and that game is Helldivers. Hello there, my name is Dai. If you enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like and be sure to subscribe for any and all future content. Now let's gear up and prepare ourselves to dive into why Helldivers 2 is a must-play. Let's start with the overall gameplay. Helldivers 2 makes it very clear that you are not the main character in this game. Weapons feel heavy to wave around, and this is especially apparent with larger weapons, including the autocannon and recoilless rifle. This forces the player to pause before shooting in order to line up a clear shot on their target. The movement is slower and slightly cumbersome, but retains a rather smooth flow state. Running, mantling, and diving feels great, and most of this movement tech can be implemented pretty well into any situation you may find yourself in. And to round things off, players are the definition of squishy in gaming terminology. Most enemies in this game can cripple players with relative ease, and to make matters worse, the lowest tier enemy can overwhelm and kill an unaware player within about 6 hits. This helps to emphasize playing as a team, but be warned, even a stray bullet from a trigger-happy teammate can easily put an end to life within a fraction of a second. As of right now, the game has 2 enemy factions for the players to fight against: the PTSD-inducing automatons and the swarm-like terminids. As time goes on and the war rages across the galaxy, later down the road we can see the return of our technologically advanced race called the Illuminate, and possibly a return of the rebellious cyborgs entwined with the automatons. Something I really do hope for the future, with the inclusion of mechs and vehicles later down the line, would be the return of some of the bigger, nastier variants of the enemies that provided such a unique challenge from the first game. And who's to say, as territory is both lost and gained, and this war continues to rage on, we may see an increase in rebel cells across the automaton territory. And I sure wouldn't be surprised to see those terminids evolve into something real nasty. Now you may be asking, Dai, you can't expect me to fight this war with just a rifle. Well, that's a valid point, and you're right. That's why Super Earth's slight bit of discretionary funding has allowed the military to provide each and every one of their divers with their own unique super destroyer. Each of these bad boys is armed to the teeth with a wide variety of stratagem for which our Helldivers can reliably call upon to spread democracy across the stars. Stratagems in this game have provided a bit of a power trip to all the players, being able to call in defensive platforms, powerful weapons, and even utilize more destructive payloads to rain down majestic explosive firepower upon your enemies. This diversity ensures squads work together to tackle the challenges presented to them ahead. Players beware, as all stratagems will not discriminate between friend or foe, and sometimes a simple run callout will suffice as a "I done goofed" for your team. The overall size of this game is massive, with the sheer size of the galactic map, possibilities for war on more than 2 fronts, and a wide selection of planets to choose from. Players are given the freedom to play how they see fit in this ever-evolving conflict. Now, we've reached the point where it's time to talk about some of the negatives this game has. I'll go ahead and state that due to the rather chaotic nature of this game, I accept most issues in regards to the weapon mechanics and strategy mechanics to be instead features adding to the chaos. As someone who's played the first Helldivers, I will say my biggest complaint has to be the lack of upgrades when compared to the first game. In the first Helldivers, we had a very wide selection of stratagems and weapons that each had their own upgrade path, and I'd like to see something similar come back to this one. Now, I know I'm asking for a lot, and this game is still in the baby stages, so it has the potential to change later. I just miss a little bit of the variety that came with the first game. Secondly on my list of negatives would have to be grinding out the samples for upgrading all of our stratagems. To me, trying to get the samples feels a little on the tedious side, but at the same time, certain missions do offer farming opportunities, but going out of my way to look for the samples feels like a bit of a drag. Something I feel would improve upon this would be to cluster all of the samples in higher points of interest locations such as outposts and side quests. This would provide the players with more incentive to complete those particular objectives. The reason I say this is when we get to the higher levels, the higher difficulties, going into Impossible and Helldive, we see a massive spike in tougher enemies to kill and the frequency at which they spawn, making side objectives and hive structures and outposts less of a desirable target for the players to want to focus on. I feel as though adding those samples to those objectives in the outposts will give the players more incentive to complete those objectives as they play. And that's really all I had for negatives. And to be honest, they weren't even really negatives. It was more so nitpicking at some of the little things in the game. Helldivers 2 is a prime example as to how simple you can make a game for players to enjoy the experience. I'm personally going to give Helldivers 2 a 9 out of 10 for being possibly one of the best co-op games I've ever played. And to me, the positives heavily outweigh any negatives this game currently has. And quite frankly, it makes me happy seeing Arrowhead Games being extremely successful with this title. On that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. The good, the bad, and of course, the ugly. And I'll be sure to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!